evening. Thanks for the presentation. It was very good. My name is Wayne Stovall. I'm president of Chebucto Windfield, which actually is a renewable energy investment fund company. I'd like to take you back, if I could, to comments you made in Germany, in which you said that anyone who produces power is guaranteed access to the grid. And in Nova Scotia, one of our major problems is the inadequacy of the transmission and distribution system. And in fact, many of the companies trying to develop wind farms in Nova Scotia are being required in the presentation of their proposal to Nova Scotia Power to pay for the transmission grid upgrades to allow them to bring their electricity from their farms or their production facilities to the grid system. In Germany, when this law was passed, I would presume that there must have been some issues related to the capacity of the grid to deal with potentially all of this new power. And you said if anybody phones up and said, I've got power to put on the grid, they say, okay, we're going to put it in a line and that sort of thing. Did the government have any program in place or any incentives, whatever one might call it, for the utilities to assist them in upgrading, because there must have been some capital cost? Could you comment on that aspect, please?
Absolutely. As I mentioned, the electric utilities are not, they call this ownership unbundled, but they're technically unbundled. So the same owner, E.ON AG, still holds a generation arm, a transmission arm, and a couple of regional distribution arms. So these subsidiaries of the same holding company are not supposed to talk to each other. So the transmission arm is the one arm that is regulated by the Bundesnetzagentur, by a specific agency that regulates telecommunications, gas grids, and electric grids. And they have to submit their investment plans to that agency, and the agency approves the wheeling and transmission fees that they are charging. So the system actually on my bill is even more transparent than what I showed, because in my bill, the blue bar in that cost diagram that I mentioned is also subdivided into transmission as wheeling fees and other fees. So if a transmission company has to invest into upgrading their electricity grid in order to accommodate more wind, they can submit this to the regulator and get higher tariffs approved for the wheeling. Nevertheless, the regulator in the last years has consistently downgraded their fees because they were claiming too many expenses and charging too high fees. But this is the one sector where the regulator really works in order to increase transparency and also make it possible that these grid companies invest in upgrading their grids and still get reimbursed by the consumer. And obviously, since the tariffs go down rather than up, it's not making the system more expensive so far, because charging still obviously a little too much. Nevertheless, this is the one issue in which the law foresees that, for example, and this affects mainly wind facilities, that wind power production can be curtailed. So if the grid operator can prove that if they take the output of that one wind farm, it would endanger grid stability because the wires would glow too red hot, basically. And then the grid operator calls the wind farm operator and tells him to please shut down because of grid stability. That's the one issue that the law allows for. And it's a real issue. Some wind farms in the north and in the most densely populated by wind farms area are losing up to 10% of their profits through that loss through that curtailment in times when they cannot feed it to the grid. Obviously, everybody is aware of that because the grid operators have to publish these incidents on the website, so there is public transparency of these incidents. And everybody can track how much money are these wind farms really losing, and is there a need to refurbish the grid, and how fast does the utility take action. So I'm sure if the utility doesn't take action fast enough, the wind farm operators as well as their associations will take them to court and say, hey, come on, we have to do something about that. In addition, in the most recent review of that law, it is included that the operator has to reimburse the wind farm for that loss of revenue. So they still have to pay for these kilowatt hours even if they don't take it. And these are kilowatt hours that they cannot sell, obviously, because they don't have it, right? So they will try to put that on top of the grid charges, and then they will get in trouble with the regulator. So I wonder how that is going to play out. But the incentives to reinforce the grid are rather strong for this kind of